Hi there. Welcome to Flow into Authenticity. My name's Esther, artist and creative coach. My hope is that through these videos, you'll be able to connect more to your creative flow, move through any blocks that are holding you back, and really begin to create from your true authentic self. Please remember to like and subscribe if you're enjoying this content so you can get anything new and fresh that comes out when I put it out. Thanks so much for being here. Hi everybody. I wanted to do a video a little bit about me and my story, if you haven't heard it, and sort of why I started this channel, what my work is about. And yeah, I wanted to start off this year because I'm wanting to be more consistent in creating videos and sharing my process with you. This channel is all about finding out where you want to go, what you want to do creatively, what your dreams are, and how to get there in an intuitive way, in a way that feels natural, not like you're hustling, not like you're stressing yourself, burning yourself. So in a way that you can, how do you connect to your intuition as a creative person? And how do you just not follow the formula? I'm going to be coming out with a podcast with two collaborators this year called Flow into Authenticity, which is also my website. So you can check out all of my info there. And I wanted to just share in this video a little bit about my story. So I grew up in a very creative household. My dad was a painter who's probably the most creative person that I know. And he was always asking us, what do you want to create? What do you want to make? Like, he could fix anything. I just felt like he could do anything, So it made me feel like, yeah, I can do anything. But at the same time, there was a lot of dogma in my house. He was a pastor. There was a lot of rules in the church and in our house. There was a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, some emotional abuse. And so there was a lot of conflicting things as far as me being able to express my true essence. So one of my core philosophies and the things that I teach is that all of us have this sort of core essence that we create from, right? If you've been around like a lot of babies, you know that each little baby has its own personality. So our essence is sort of like, it's sort of like a personality, but like a deeper level, maybe of like soul, or also becomes like all the things that you're interested in, all the things that you are excited about and that naturally want to come out of you. So each one of us has sort of access to this expression, right? So if you are a creative or you want to become an artist, that's where we draw from. We draw from that deeper part of ourself, of our essence, of our expression. And so what happens is, like, when we're young, we go to express ourselves in various ways. Like when we are very young, it's like, pulling hair or saying no or things like that. And that expression gets repressed. Some people, their expression is more fostered, right? And so for me, because of all of the trauma that I experienced, all of the dogma, narcissism in my family, like that expression got very repressed. And so throughout my years growing up, I would constantly sort of abandon myself, and I would try to fit myself into what others thought I should do. So for instance, I should go to church every week, or, right, the school that I went to was like, all of these things felt like they weren't necessarily coming from my essence, but they were coming from maybe rules that were passed down to me from the church or from my family. So like, you might see this in your life, like if your family was really strong into, grades, like getting good grades, and maybe, you felt like you needed to go to a certain school and go into a certain kind of college or career. Maybe you went in those directions instead of following your heart, which might be, being an artist, right? Which isn't so practical. So I found myself doing the same thing, which is like, okay, well, this isn't practical. So I had this very like practical mind. So all of these voices, from the church and from my family sort of repressed this expression of my own uniqueness, my own voice. And what this can look like is maybe, like in my case, not knowing, like having trouble deciding, right, what to do, or taking one path because it seems like the right thing to do, but deep down it kind of feels like you're abandoning yourself. So that was kind of the story of my life, right? Is maybe, constantly asking people, or asking God, or asking my parents, like, what should I do? What should I do? Or just, going with my logical mind. And then I would start to feel bad because there was something inside of me that felt like I always needed to express myself, like in the arts, or also in this way of sharing and inspiring people and connecting to people. So there was something in me that was like communicating to me on a level that didn't contain words, right? I remember I would go to like art galleries or museums, and I would just stand in front of paintings and I would feel this like deep sadness. Or I would listen to music and I would feel that too. And what it was this need inside of me to express myself, to express that inner, essence, that inner expression. But I didn't know how to find it because it had been so covered by all these other voices. So maybe you can relate to this. Like maybe, you felt this urge to do something, maybe be creative or be an artist or another career. And maybe, you sort of got led down, or, by your family, you got led down the path of going to the right school, or going to the right, getting a job that seemed very practical. And then you end up sort of being unsatisfied, or feeling like you abandoned yourself, right? Feeling like, oh, that didn't really seem fun or like the right choice, but I did it anyway because it seems practical, right? Or somebody else told me I should do it. So maybe you can relate to this. So this, this happened to me over and over again in my life, which felt very confusing. And then I ended up I went to school for counseling, for psychology, and then I did like a bunch of other things, like I did acting and did a lot of different other jobs trying to find my way. And then I ended up after a lot of things happened in my life, I was in an abusive relationship. I was in an abusive church relationship. I ended up leaving my religion, leaving sort of all my friends who wouldn't speak to me after that. So it's this really big shift in my life that happened in my late 20s. And I ended up, that was sort of like the first time when I really kind of stood up and said, I'm going to start to follow this voice inside of me rather than all of these other voices outside of me. So for me, that was the first time when I started to find who I really was on that deeper level and listen to my intuition. So I knew what I knew I wanted. I knew I wanted to go to art school. So I ended up going to art school, and I still in art school sort of chose the practical path. It was a path that I liked, which was commercial art. And I was very successful in that field. And I was very driven because of financial reasons. I wanted to feel like I was be able to take care of myself and have a career, which is all great things. I think that's one of the reasons we all kind of step into that practicality. But then there was this deeper voice that kept kind of driving me, and this need to express myself in a different way. And even when I was in school, I had this teacher, fine art teacher, who was like, you're a fine artist. You're not an illustrator. You're not a designer. Like, you're a fine artist at heart. And I was just like, no, I'm going to do this, And so it's sort of funny how we abandon ourselves over and over again. So I ended up taking internships and taking clients and jobs that didn't, they on a practical level, they seemed great. On a deeper level, they felt like I was abandoning myself in a lot of ways. And I just kept doing this over and over again and sort of pushing myself harder and harder. So I ended up burning out over and over again. And still I had this sort of like deep need to express myself in a different way. And so my path led me to, so I took this intuitive painting class, which sort of changed everything for me. And I started to, when I first took that class, it's, very intuitive because I loved painting, but my mind would always get in the way. I have this very strong mind that's very logical. And whenever I started painting, I would get blocked in my mind. And it never turned out how I wanted it to. Maybe some of you can relate to this too. And so I took this intuitive painting class, and when I was done with the painting for the first time, I felt like something inside me had come out onto the canvas. And it was the first time I felt like that ever. Maybe ever that I can remember. And so I went, what is this intuitive thing? A lot of people think that artists are just so in touch with their intuition, but it wasn't really the case for me. Like, I was very intuitive, but I wasn't that in touch with it, I was living from my mind mostly. And so I went down this rabbit hole because I was also an educator. I had been teaching illustration, design, and art for a long time. And so I started down this rabbit hole of studying intuition, studying the creative process, studying the psychology of flow, and how does it help us in our creative process? What role does intuition play, or connecting to our subconscious play, in allowing us to be more free, have more ideas, be more innovative as artists or creators, and also follow our what I call your GPS, your intuition, your that guides you to your expression. Like, how does it lead us on our path to finding our goals and achieving our goals in the most like fluid way that we can? So I started studying people like Linda Berry. She was, one of my biggest inspirers. Stephen Kotler, Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, who's the godfather of flow, who founded flow, who founded the study of flow. People even like Steve Jobs or Oprah, who have followed their own intuition and created amazing things. And so I started going down this rabbit hole of how do I teach people how to follow their intuition, follow their inner guidance, follow this actual process in the creative process that allows us to access more of our brain, more ideas, better ideas, more creative ideas. But for me, it was really important to be able to trust myself. So I work with clients now. I'm a creative coach. And so that's a lot of what I work with clients on, is how do you trust yourself in your journey of discovering where you want to go, with your creative practice, with your creative career? How do you create better art through connecting to that essence, to that core essence? How do you find out what the next steps are for you to do, right? How do you connect to your clients, to your collectors? Like, how do you do that in a way that feels easier than the hustle, than struggling and following all the formulas, right? And so what I found is that we can learn a formula, but then we sort of have to make it our own. So I started teaching workshops and teaching this to my students, and saw these like amazing changes in, and doing this in my own life, and creating this kind of, from what I learned about all of these things, creative process, intuition, flow, I created this framework that allows you to go through starting a new project or starting a new phase in your life and be able to really see how the creative process works in that, and how you can remain connected to your intuition. So this channel is really about what I learned, what I teach, and how it can really change your life, So I've shifted my careers many times, and now I'm sort of in this space where I'm able to trust myself in each next step. I really believe that each one of you has this, it's like a piece of the puzzle, right? We've sort of been taught in our top-down world that we live in now, society that we live in, that we're taught what to do and we have to just follow the directions. But in other cultures, it's really a matter of everybody brings a piece of the puzzle, right? And I really believe that each one of you, in whatever your intuition, whatever your expression is calling to you, you have a piece of that puzzle, right? So you have something that wants to be shared. So it's my greatest joy to be able to help you along that journey, to be able to reach those goals and your dreams by connecting to yourself and by trusting yourself and by following, your creativity. That's just a little bit about me and where I have come from. Now I've sort of shifted into fine art and coaching and teaching and speaking. And so if you need help with finding out where you want to focus, what is that expression that wants to come out of you, I am opening up a couple of coaching spots, so you can certainly email me or go to my website, flowintoauthenticity.com, and check out what I do. I'm also available for speaking and teaching workshops that are always super fun and inspiring. So thanks for joining me, and have a beautiful week.